Sam Darley here, and today I'm going to be previewing the training camps and making a season prediction for the AFC North. Last year, the Pittsburgh Steelers, the Cincinnati Bengals, and the Baltimore Ravens each made the playoffs in that division, and it's not a weak division. It's a very strong, both physically and mentally strong division. A lot of mentally and physically strong teams. It's not for the small. It's not for the weak teams. It's not a little boys league. I mean, it's a physical, nasty, ground and pound type division. But it's going to see some transition this year. I mean, the Steelers let go of Dick LeBeau. They saw a lot of big time players like Troy Polamalu gone, retired. Kiesel is gone. They're going to be relying on their youth defensively. I think the best defense in the division is the Baltimore Ravens. I think they have a good, strong secondary. They have a strong front seven, at least stronger than Pittsburgh's. But offensively, I give the edge to the Steelers. I mean, when they got Le'Veon Bell, and he's going to serve, I believe now it's a 3-game suspension. So when he gets back, they'll be just as potent as ever on offense. Roethlisberger is the best quarterback in the division, in my opinion. And the Steelers and Ravens are both well-coached franchises. I look at this division and I see the Bengals and the Browns. The Bengals need to fire Marvin Lewis. I mean, for crying out loud, how many more years are they going to go one and done with a roster like that? That's a team that could make a run for the Super Bowl, but because they have a complete moron of a coach, I mean, they're not going to win. I mean, Marvin Lewis has been there 12 years, and he's not getting as much blame as he should for their failures. I mean, I know they were a god-awful franchise before he got there, something with Andy Dalton, but the Cincinnati Bengals are being a consistent playoff team with Dalton as their quarterback. I'm not going to pin it all on Dalton. Dalton was overmatched against the Houston Texans in his first 2 playoff games. I mean, the Texans are a beast of a defense, but the Chargers, that's a team you should have came through against. If that team wasn't as imposing as the Houston Texans, well, at least the 2011 Texans were very physically imposing. And they just, I mean, obviously he was a rookie, so he was overwhelmed by the playoff pressure. And this year they went to Indianapolis and got bounced in the first round. I didn't pick them to win that game. Excuse me. I don't think anybody did. But for them to do, I mean, they are a consistent 9-7, 10-6 type team. They're a tease of a team. They got a roster that can contend. A quarterback that's not too bad until the big games arrive, and then he just disappears. But it's not just him. AJ Green doesn't make the kind of plays that you're used to. Those big, when you need a big play in a big moment of a big game, Green has not delivered. But then again, you could say, well, it's Dalton's fault, and it is. I mean, the blame goes both ways. But I pin the blame all on Marvin Lewis. You're the head coach. You've been there for 12 years. You got to get it done. You're the longest tenured coach in the NFL, or one of the longest tenured coaches in the NFL, and you haven't won a championship. And if I were the Cincinnati Bengals, I mean, it's going to be hard to do with the Browns in their division, and I'll get to the Browns in just a minute. For the Bengals, they're going to have to tank the season to get rid of Lewis. And they are going to have to get rid of Lewis if they want to make any progress towards winning a championship. And everybody keeps saying, well, sure, they're going to do it this year. Sure, they're going to do it this year. The Houston Texans are a great example. They had Kubiak, and when they got dump trucked by the Patriots in 2012, I saw the writing on the wall. I said, that's the game, that's the team that if the Texans had won, then I would have believed that Kubiak could deliver a championship as a head coach. And when the Texans got throttled not once but twice against the Patriots in the 2012 season, once in the regular season and once in the playoffs, I saw the writing on the wall, and I think Bengal fans see the writing on the wall with Marvin Lewis. They're a team that could be a really, I'm not saying they're going to be a dominant team. They're not going to be a top 3 seed. I mean, they could be. But their roster is at least 11 win. Like with their roster, paper wise, you know, they're at least a 10-11 win team, but they've only won like 8 or 9 games. And I mean, last year they tied. I don't know. I mean, I don't know what to say. They're underachieving with their head coach. I think the Pittsburgh Steelers are really going to miss Le'Veon Bell, and it showed in the playoffs last year when they played against the Baltimore Ravens. Bell is like what Charles and Arian Foster are to the Chiefs and the Texans. Those two guys, for those two respected teams, they make their offense so much more dynamic because they are able to play in the passing game, protect the quarterback. They're able to dominate on the ground too. You know, they create so much. They create a lot of matchup nightmares, and that's what Le'Veon Bell is. Le'Veon Bell is an absolute matchup nightmare. I still remember that Monday night game against the Houston Texans, and it wasn't just the Texans turning the ball over. It was the Steelers. It was Le'Veon Bell getting out and forcing linebackers in because guys up front couldn't bring him down. I mean, he's a load. And without him, you saw in the playoffs just how ineffective their offense is. He gives them a whole new dimension, and their passing attack with Antonio Brown and Martavis Bryant. Those two guys can flat out run up and down the field. They're athletic. They're strong. Roethlisberger is not being mentioned as a top 5 quarterback, and he should be. He's won a couple of Super Bowls. He's an elite quarterback. I mean, before the motorcycle accident, he was, you know, he's still is. But before the motorcycle accident, you know, he was really, really at the top of his game, and he had some down years after the motorcycle accident because I didn't hear much about Roethlisberger. I mean, you talk more about Brady and Manning and Rodgers and Luck. I mean, Roethlisberger's no slouch. And now he's got arguably one of the best receiving cores in the league, and he's got Le'Veon Bell, who's one of the best running backs in the league. So, but for the Steelers, I just don't believe in their defense. They're so young, they're so inexperienced. And Shazier had trouble staying healthy last year. Can he stay healthy? It's a new defensive coordinator. I think if Le'Veon Bell is healthy and stays out of trouble, he gives the Steelers the edge in this division. I feel like the Ravens, they're a better defensive team, but their offense, now with Kubiak gone, I mean, Kubiak's a good offensive coordinator. I won't give him any love for being a head coach. Although he did turn around Houston, made them a respectable team. But I thought with Flacco's arm strength, you know, his offense Flacco was able to thrive with Kubiak's offense last year, and again, it's a new offensive coordinator and it's a new offensive system. They didn't really do much in free agency. I mean, they drafted Brashad Perryman, who could be a young stud of a wide receiver. But like I said, I like their defense. I like their defense a lot. And how good is Justin Forsett going to be in the running game? I mean, in that division, you need physical power and toughness to win that to even have a chance of winning that division. And I don't know how good Forsett's going to be without Kubiak, because Forsett really fits his scheme better than what they're probably going to run next year. So I don't know. I don't think Forsett will have as monster of a year as he did last year. My pick to win this division is the Steelers, and I think the one team. I think realistically, when I look at this division, it's really the Ravens and the Steelers. The Bengals proved last year they cannot play in a big game, and again, until they get rid of Marvin Lewis, they're going to be pretenders. When they get a new head coach, whoever it is, then maybe I'll give it, depending on who it is, that'll determine whether or not I give them a shot. But right now, they have no shot in that division. I don't see. I see one team making the playoffs in this division, and that's because I think. I mean, I could definitely see the Ravens making it, but just too much offensive transition. I think you'll clearly see a team offensively trying to find its way again. I mean, they quickly picked up Kubiak's system last year, but then again, it's a 5-play offense. Sorry. I'll talk about the Broncos in the AFC West another day, another time. But I have question marks about the running game, and I have question marks about what kind of offense are they running and how effective can they be. A transition is not, when you keep making these changes to your coaching staff, it's hard. It's hard on a team to build up camaraderie and continuity with the coaching staff, and for players to get comfortable in their system. It takes time. It takes time for these guys to gel, not only as players but players and coaches. I mean, players and coaches have to get on the same page too. But I do think the Ravens will be in the mix for the division. Man, it's gonna be a tight race between them and the Steelers. Like I said, the Bengals have to tank if they wanna get a real head coach, make a real shot of getting to the Super Bowl. They gotta get a new head coach, and to do that, they're gonna have to suck. Speaking of bad teams, the Cleveland Browns, to me, if not for some of the guys on the defense like Dansby and Hayden, just naming a couple, I'm pretty sure there's a couple more players that's not coming to me right now. But outside of their defense, they have the worst roster on the planet. They have no quarterback. They have no running backs. They have no wide receivers. And before anybody says Terrence West and Isaiah Crowell, those guys are practice squad at best on any other team. Just my observation from them watching them last year. They don't do well in pass protection. They don't catch the ball well in the backfield, and they don't really put fear into a defense. They don't really go, oh great, here comes Terrence West, here comes Isaiah Crowell, and then you got the quarterback position. It's gonna be Johnny Manziel, and Johnny really deserves a real shot. I really wish Cleveland Brown fans would give him a real chance. NFL fans in general. He's a 21-year-old kid. I didn't think he was ready for the big time, but obviously he felt he was last year when he entered the NFL draft. I don't think he's ready. Them trading Hoyer, who had them at 7-5 and in the playoff picture. And then picking up Josh McCown. I mean, really, Josh McCown, the only thing he's done is give Chicago Bears fans slim hope of making the playoffs a couple of years ago, and he was in Chicago, and he gave the Buccaneers a franchise quarterback by absolutely sucking in Tampa Bay. But even in Tampa Bay, he had two good wide receivers. He had Mike Evans and Vincent Jackson. The best wide receiver on the Browns is a past his prime Miles Austin. And they lost Jordan Cameron. They didn't really replace anybody. It didn't matter what they did. To me, it didn't matter what they did in the draft. I really don't see this team is not going to be very competitive. To me, it's going to be them or the 49ers with the first pick in the draft. These two teams, they're so dysfunctional. I mean, you're seeing Oakland climb out of their dysfunctional hole. They're starting to get things right now, and they got the old quarterback in car, and they're building their rosters, finally getting built the right way. Cleveland, they dump a quarterback after 2 years. They dump a head coach after one. They dump a general manager after one season or maybe 2 seasons. They're the least patient franchise, and you do have to be patient, especially with a young quarterback like Johnny Manziel. I mean, he's no miracle worker. It's going to take a superhuman effort to get that team even in breathing distance of anybody in the AFC. I really wish Johnny the best with the Browns. It's going to be him. He's going to be the starting quarterback. If it's Josh McCown, Cleveland is definitely in trouble. I mean, they have no roster. They just don't have a roster that can compete with anybody in the NFL. They don't have a number one. That's why they went out and got Terrell Pryor, because the actual number one is suspended again for another season. I think Josh Gordon needs to go to a team with structure, like in New England, like Houston. Because Houston's starting to get some structure, and actually Oakland is starting to get some structure too. And by structure, I mean there's none of this insanity of changing coaches every 2 years and changing quarterbacks every week. Of course, Houston doesn't have a quarterback, but they don't change coaches every year. They don't change general managers every year. They don't make all these different changes. They don't change the roster because they live up to inflated expectations. And that's what the Browns are trying to do. That's what Browns ownership is. They want to win so badly. They're so desperate. They're not patient. This roster is terrible. Mike Pettin would be coach of the year if he got 6 or 7 wins out of that team. I'll be realistic. He'd have my vote. I don't see them winning a game. They're gonna get destroyed by Pittsburgh. They're gonna get ran down by the Ravens. I mean, they might beat the Bengals because the Bengals, again, like I said, have a mediocre coach. I feel like Mike Pettin's a little bit better, just a little bit better than Marvin Lewis. And then again, I think half the league has a better head coach than Marvin Lewis. Just my opinion. But I don't think Cleveland is just not going to be competitive this year. I just don't see them. I can't find a reason to think Cleveland's going to be any more than an 0-16 team. Maybe 1-15. They'll get. Maybe somebody feels sorry for them down the road and kind of slips on the bar of soap and they got to win. But I don't see any more than one win. Sorry, Cleveland. But I do pick the Steelers. I think I got the Steelers. Once they got Le'Veon Bell back, I got them around 12-4. And then I got the Ravens at the Ravens, again, it comes down to their offense. They got a defense. Flacco's pretty good, and they're a pretty good quarterback, and you got Harbaugh as your coach. The running game's a question mark. I'm gonna say 8 to 10 wins, anywhere between 8 to 10 wins for the Ravens. But I mean, they will. We all know they'll battle the Steelers to the death for that division. So, it's not gonna be an easy 12 wins for the Steelers. But then again, if Le'Veon Bell was playing in the season opener, I'm pretty sure the Patriots would be in serious trouble. They got a break there. I mean, obviously, Brady being suspended. But I do think that I think the Steelers I think the only thing holding the Steelers back is the question marks on their defense. They've got the offense. The Ravens have the defense. That sounds like the AFC South with the Colts and the Texans. The Texans have the defense. The Colts have the offense. The Bengals have to tank, but it's going to be hard for them to tank because you got the Browns in that division. But they need to be bad enough to push ownership to fire Marvin Lewis because it's time. It's time to fire him. It's time to get a real head coach. And then the Browns, there's just no hope for the Browns. Sorry. By the way, I will say this. For them to give up on Hoyer, that's really, really bad. That's just that's really, really bad because he got them 7-5. He got them with a 7-5 record. I know he didn't have great numbers, But I wouldn't have great numbers if I was throwing the ball to Miles Austin and Hawkins and consistently John Cameron who can't stay consistently healthy, and then you don't have any running backs. They really don't have a team except for their defense. The defense is pretty much, Mike Ben's a good defensive coach. They'll be fine defensively. But if you can't score, you can't win. I don't know. I don't know what else to say about the Browns. But yeah, I think the Steelers will win the division. Not going away. There'll be a battle. People will say, "Well, you got the Ravens at 12, Steelers at 12 wins, and the Ravens at no more than 10." It's kind of running away. No, I think the Steelers and Ravens it's gonna be a bloodbath between those two teams, and everybody else is just gonna trudge along. The Bengals and the Browns will just be there. They'll just be there like they've always been for the last decade and a half. It's been Ravens or Steelers in that division, and I don't see that changing. This has been Sam Darley talking about the AFC North training camp preview and predictions. Thanks for watching.